I looked at the apartment key in my hand and wondered if I'd just made the stupidest decision of my life. "You won't last 3 days living with me," she had said, her voice cold and certain. I moved in anyway. Her name was Alina Cross. She was 34, I was 26. She owned the architecture firm where I had worked for 8 months as a junior designer. And 3 weeks ago, my landlord sold my building with 30 days' notice. I panicked. Rent in the city was impossible. I asked everyone. I was desperate. Then Elena overheard me on the phone with my brother, explaining that I might have to move 2 hours away and quit. She walked into the break room where I was sitting, looked at me with those sharp gray eyes, and said, "I have a spare bedroom." I stared at her. "What?" "You need a place. I have space. It's temporary until you find something else." I didn't know what to say. Elena wasn't warm. She didn't do small talk. She didn't smile at office birthdays. She arrived early, left late, and expected perfection. People respected her, but nobody really knew her. "I can't afford much," I admitted. "We'll figure it out." That's when she said it. "But I'm warning you now, you won't last 3 days living with me." She wasn't joking. I should have asked why. I should have questioned what that meant. But I was desperate, and I told myself it was just temporary. The apartment was beautiful. 20th floor, floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, everything in shades of white and gray. It felt more like a gallery than a home. My room was small, but clean, with a view of the city I'd never afford on my own. "House rules," Elena said the first night, handing me a handwritten list. I read it. No loud music after 9, no guests without notice, clean up immediately after yourself, respect boundaries. "Okay," I said. She nodded. "Good." Then she disappeared into her room, and I didn't see her again until morning. The first day was strange. We moved around each other like polite strangers. She made coffee in silence. I stayed out of her way. At work, nothing changed. She was still my boss, strict, demanding, impossible to please. But at home, I started noticing things. She worked until midnight most nights, sitting at the dining table with her laptop, a single lamp on, everything else dark. She barely ate. I'd find her coffee cup still full and cold in the morning. She didn't watch TV. She didn't talk on the phone. The apartment was silent, except for the sound of her typing. On the third night, I made dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta and salad. I made extra without thinking and left a plate on the counter. She came out of her room around 10, saw the food, and stopped. "You didn't have to do this," she said quietly. "I made too much anyway." She hesitated, then sat at the counter and ate in silence. When she finished, she washed her plate, looked at me, and said, "Thank you." It was the first time I'd heard her voice sound soft. 3 days passed, a week, 2 weeks. I didn't leave. Slowly, the silence between us changed. It wasn't uncomfortable anymore. It became something else, something I didn't have a name for. I started making dinner a few nights a week. She never asked me to, but she always ate it. And sometimes she'd sit at the counter while I cooked and work on her laptop, just there. One night I asked, "Why did you say I wouldn't last 3 days?" She didn't look up from her screen. "Because most people can't handle silence. They need noise, company, validation. They get uncomfortable around me." "Why?" "Because I don't perform happiness," she said simply. "I don't pretend to be someone I'm not. People find that unsettling." I've thought about that. I don't find it unsettling. She glanced at me then, something unreadable in her eyes. "I've noticed." A month passed. I stopped looking for apartments. I told myself it was because rent was still impossible, but that wasn't the whole truth. The truth was, I didn't want to leave. I liked the quiet. I liked the rhythm we'd found. I liked being near her, even when we barely spoke. And I was starting to realize something that terrified me. I was falling for her. It happened in small moments, the way she'd leave me a note if she used the last of the coffee, the rare, fleeting smile when I said something that surprised her. The night I found her asleep at the dining table at 2 a.m., and I gently woke her and told her to go to bed, and she looked at me with exhausted gratitude and whispered, "Thank you for noticing." I noticed everything about her. The way she rubbed her left temple when she was stressed, the fact that she only drank herbal tea after 8 p.m., the way she stood at the window sometimes, just staring out at the city, looking so alone it made my chest ache. I wanted to ask her why she lived like this, why she kept everyone at arm's length, why she worked herself to exhaustion. But I didn't. I just stayed. I made dinner. I existed quietly beside her. And somehow that felt like enough. Until one night, everything shifted. It was late, almost 11. I couldn't sleep, so I went to the kitchen for water. Elena was at the dining table again, but she wasn't working. She was just sitting there in the dark, staring at nothing. "Hey," I said softly. "You okay?" She didn't answer right away. Then, in a voice I'd never heard from her before, fragile, breaking, she said, "I'm tired." I walked over slowly. Of work? Of everything. I sat down across from her. The city lights glowed through the windows, casting shadows across her face. She looked different in the dark, vulnerable, human. "Elena," I started, but I didn't know what to say. "You should have left after 3 days," she said quietly. "Why?" "Because I'm not good at this, at letting people in, at being close to someone." She finally looked at me. "Everyone leaves eventually. It's easier if they leave early." My heart was pounding. "I'm not everyone." "I know," she whispered. "That's the problem." The air between us felt electric, heavy with something unspoken. I should have stayed quiet. I should have stood up and gone to bed. But I didn't. "What if I don't want to leave?" I said. Her eyes locked on mine. "Don't say that." "Why not?" "Because you don't know what you're saying. You don't know me. Not really." "Then let me know you." She shook her head, pain flickering across her face. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because I'm your boss. Because I'm 8 years older than you. Because I'm broken in ways you don't understand." Her voice cracked. "Because if I let you in and you leave, I don't think I'll survive it." I reached across the table and took her hand. She flinched, but didn't pull away. "I'm not leaving," I said firmly. "You don't know that." "Yes, I do." We sat there in the dark, hands touching, the city breathing around us. And for the first time since I'd known her, I saw tears in Elena's eyes. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered. "Do what?" "Feel this." She looked down at our hands. "I haven't let myself feel anything in years." "Why?" She was quiet for a long time. Then slowly she told me. 5 years ago, she'd been engaged. His name was Daniel. They'd planned a life together. And 3 months before the wedding, he told her he couldn't do it. He said she was too intense, too closed off, too much work. He said loving her felt like loving a wall. She blamed herself. She believed him. And she decided never to let anyone close enough to hurt her again. "I built this life," she said, gesturing to the apartment, to the silence, where I didn't need anyone, where I couldn't be hurt. "And then I showed up," I said softly. She nodded, a tear sliding down her cheek. "And you didn't leave." I stood up, walked around the table, and knelt beside her chair. She turned to face me, and I reached up and gently wiped the tear away. "I'm not him," I said. "I don't think you're too much. I don't think you're too intense. I think you're incredible. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you work yourself to exhaustion because you're afraid of being still. I know you don't let anyone see you because who you are isn't enough. I know you're terrified right now because for the first time in 5 years, you actually feel something." Her breath hitched. "And I know," I continued, my voice barely a whisper, "that I'm falling for you. And I don't care that you're my boss. I don't care about the age difference. I don't care about any of it." "This is a bad idea," she whispered, but her hand came up and touched my face. "Probably. We could ruin everything." "Maybe." "I could hurt you." "I'll risk it." She looked at me like she was memorizing my face, like she was trying to believe this was real. And then, slowly, she leaned forward and kissed me. It was soft, tentative, terrifying, like she was testing whether this was allowed, whether she was allowed to want this. I kissed her back, gentle and certain, and felt her whole body exhale. When we pulled apart, she was crying again, but this time it was different. Relief. Release. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Me too. What if this doesn't work? What if it does?" She let go of a shaky laugh, the first real laugh I'd ever heard from her, and it was the most beautiful sound in the world. That night, we stayed up until dawn, talking, really talking. She told me about her childhood, her family, her dreams she'd buried. I told her about mine. We sat on the couch, her head on my shoulder, and watched the sun rise over the city. "I never thought I'd feel this again," she whispered. "Feel what?" "Hope."